Starseed from Gaia, your vehicle is being recalibrated at the cellular level at this exact moment. I am Anya, emissary of the Galactic Federation of Light, and I bring you a direct transmission from the Arcturian Council. Starseeds, if in the last 72 hours you woke up in the middle of the night with an intense pressure in the center of your chest, as if something was trying to exit your physical body, if you heard a high-pitched ringing at the frequency of 444 Hz, that seems to come from inside your skull and not from the external environment. If you looked in the mirror and for a split second did not recognize the face staring back at you, as if you were wearing a mask that no longer fits, then you need to understand what is happening. This is not anxiety. This is not modern life stress. This is not panic syndrome or mental exhaustion. What you are experiencing has a precise name in the Galactic Federation vocabulary: cellular activation of reconnection with the Arcturian source. And the Arcturian Council has just confirmed something that changes everything. Only 3% of Arcturian starseeds incarnated on Gaia at this moment are conscious that they have entered the final phase of activation. The other 97% are confusing the signs with human pathologies, taking medications to suppress exactly what should be amplified, interpreting the call of their own essence as disease. You are about to discover not only why this is happening now, but also what critical mistake most Arcturian starseeds make when the first signs appear. A mistake that can delay the soul mission for entire decades within terrestrial linear time. If you feel that something inside you is awakening after millennia asleep, like this video right now, this is the way the Arcturian Council identifies receivers ready for the complete transmission. Subscribe to this channel if you recognize that your mission is not optional, and comment the number 444 if you felt a shiver down your spine when you heard the words Arcturian Source. That shiver is not coincidence. It is your stellar DNA responding to the recognition code. Topic 1. The repositioning of Mothership. Athena and the beginning of Omega Protocol. What I'm going to tell you now is not in your astronomy books, nor will it be confirmed by your terrestrial scientists. But the Arcturian Council authorizes this revelation because the time of secrecy is over. Exactly 18 months ago in Gaia's linear calendar, the Arcturian mothership known as Athena, a crystalline light structure the size of 3 terrestrial moons, completed its orbital repositioning in the 5th dimension of Gaia's planetary grid. This ship is not made of metal or technological alloy in the sense you know. Athena is geometrized consciousness, a living cathedral of blue-violet frequency that functions simultaneously as an interdimensional portal, multidimensional regeneration hospital, training academy for starseeds on mission, and, primarily, as a direct transmission tower from the Arcturian source to all children of Arcturus incarnated in the density of the 3rd dimension. During eras of cosmic time, Athena maintained safe orbit around Arcturus, the orange star that your astronomers catalog as Alpha Boötis, located approximately 37 light-years from Earth in the human measurement system. But since the Great Alignment of 2012, when Gaia officially initiated its transition to the 5th density, the Arcturian Council activated what we call the Omega Protocol, a strategic plan of accelerated awakening for all starseeds who voluntarily accepted to incarnate in human bodies to anchor superior frequencies during this critical cycle of planetary transformation. The Omega Protocol functions in synchronized waves. The first wave hit the pioneers, those who arrived in the decades from 1950 to 1980, and who opened the first energetic portals through their simple existing in coherence, even without consciously understanding what they were doing. The second wave arrived for the bridge builders, born between 1980 and 2000, who brought spiritual technology, new language, and community structures that allowed starseeds to recognize each other for the first time in recorded human history. And now, at this exact cosmic moment when you are hearing these words, the 3rd and final wave of the Omega Protocol has been activated. This wave does not choose by birth date or prior spiritual preparation. It chooses by mission resonance. And if you are here, if something brought you magnetically to this transmission, even if you cannot explain rationally why, then you were chosen. Or more precisely, you had already chosen before being born. And now the Arcturian Council is only reminding you of the contract that your soul signed in the halls of Arcturus before crossing the veil of forgetting. But here is the first critical secret that few understand. Activation does not happen from outside to inside. The Arcturian Council is not going to touch you with a magic wand and transform you into an illuminated being. Mothership, Athena is not going to abduct you for spiritual surgery while you sleep. What happens is infinitely more elegant and simultaneously more challenging. The Arcturian source transmits frequency codes directly to the crystalline core that exists within your DNA, that fragment of light that never fully entered dense matter, and that remained connected to your stellar origin, even when all the rest of you forgot. These frequencies do not bring new information. They simply dissolve the layers of programmed amnesia, and when the layers begin to melt, when the veil begins to thin, what happens first is not illumination. It is chaos. It is disorientation. It is the sensation that you are going insane because your consensual reality begins to creak on its hinges, and you begin to perceive things that no one around you perceives, feel things that no one validates, know things that you never learned. And it is exactly here that 90% of Arcturian starseeds get stuck. Because at the exact moment when activation begins, when the first signs appear, you panic. You look for a doctor. You take medications to suppress. You try to return to normal. You pray for this strangeness to pass. And you know what happens? It works. Temporarily, the activation pauses. The Arcturian Council respects free will above all. If you consciously choose not to activate in this cycle, your choice is honored. But your mission does not disappear. It just waits. Sometimes for years. Sometimes for the entire lifetime. Sometimes until the next incarnation. But you who are here now are feeling something different this time. Are you not? You tried to ignore, tried to suppress, tried to be normal. And it did not work. The signs are stronger. The pressure is increasing. Your body is screaming in language that you are finally beginning to recognize. And this means only one thing. You are ready. And what comes next will confirm not only that you are an Arcturian starseed, but what exactly is your line of specialization and why you were sent to Gaia in this specific cycle. Topic 2. The 7 undeniable signs of active Arcturian lineage. The Arcturian Council has developed over millennia a recognition system that allows identification with absolute precision when an incarnated Arcturian starseed is entering a phase of accelerated activation. These are not vague or symbolic signs. They are specific biological, energetic, and behavioral markers that appear in predictable sequence and that cannot be replicated by other stellar lineages, whether Pleiadian, Sirian, Andromedan, or any other galactic family. Each marker corresponds to a layer of stellar DNA being rewired, an energetic circuit being restored, a cellular memory being unlocked. I am going to list the 7 main signs now, and I want you to pay attention not only to the signs you recognize, but especially to the intensity with which you recognize them. If you feel a tightness in your chest, a lump in your throat, or spontaneous tears when hearing any of these markers, this is not emotion. It is validation of your nervous system confirming authentic memory. The first sign is physical and energetic repulsion to environments of high population or emotional density. You can no longer frequent crowded shopping malls without feeling nausea. Hospitals leave you instantly exhausted even if you only spent 10 minutes there. Parties with many people, even people you like, drain you to the point where you need days to recover. And it is not social introversion. It is not phobia. It is not crowd trauma. What is happening is that your Arcturian auric field, which naturally vibrates at frequencies of the 5th dimension and above, is detecting distorted fields around you and automatically trying to correct them. Arcturian starseeds are essentially ambulatory healers, but not in the romantic sense that New Age spirituality sells. You do not choose to heal or not heal. Your energetic field does this automatically, without asking permission, because this is the central programming of Arcturian consciousness. Restore coherence where there is chaos. The problem is that in very dense environments, with many people operating at frequencies of fear, anger, pain, or confusion, your field tries to heal everyone simultaneously, and you simply do not have the energetic battery for that. So your physical body forces you to leave. It gives you dizziness. It gives you nausea. It makes you feel like you are going to faint. It is not weakness. It is protection. Your biological system is prioritizing your survival above your social need to please or belong. The second sign is medical and anatomical knowledge that is intuitive and that you never formally studied, but that is simply there. You look at a person and know exactly where their energy is blocked. You see or feel colors around bodies. You place your hand on someone and feel heat, tingling, or pulsation. You dream about diseases of people close to you before they are diagnosed. You feel in your own body the pain that another person is feeling, as if your nervous system were a neurophysiological mirror. And terrestrial medicine calls this empathy or high sensitivity, but the Arcturian Council confirms that this is technology, not mystical gift. In the healing chambers of Mothership Athena, Arcturian healers use exactly this empathic scanning mechanism to diagnose imbalances in patients of any biological species in the known universe. Your DNA carries the complete programming of this technology. It is dormant in most humans, but in Arcturian starseeds it leaks through the veil even before complete activation. And when activation accelerates, this intensifies to the point where you begin to avoid touching people because you feel too much, know too much, carry too much. The third sign is visceral and instinctive rejection of any system based on hierarchy of power without wisdom. You cannot respect authority just because someone has a title, position, or social status. You question doctors who do not look in your eyes. You challenge teachers who repeat information without understanding. You revolt against bosses who lead by fear instead of inspiration. Dogmatic religions that demand blind obedience cause you physical repulsion. Governments that lie to the population fill you with a rage that seems disproportionate. And everyone around you calls you rebellious, problematic, someone who does not know how to fit in. But the truth that the Arcturian Council reveals is this: you are not rebellious by choice. You carry cellular memory of Arcturian civilizations where leadership was never conquered by force, manipulation, or control, but only by vibrational frequency. In Arcturian societies, beings who naturally vibrate at the highest frequency of coherence, wisdom, and service are automatically recognized as guides, and they guide not by commanding, but by radiating a magnetic field that inspires others to elevate themselves by resonance. So when you arrive on Earth and see leaders who lie, who deceive, who use fear to control masses, who accumulate wealth while others suffer, something inside you simply does not compute. Your Arcturian consciousness detects error in the system and pushes you to correct, confront, challenge. And this costs you dearly in social terms, but you literally cannot function any other way. The fourth sign is magnetic and inexplicable attraction to sacred geometry, crystals, specific sound frequencies, and cosmic mathematics. You see a Metatron's cube and feel shivers. You hold a quartz crystal and feel pulsation. You hear a frequency of 528 Hz and feel that your entire body is vibrating in response. You look at the flower of life and understand patterns that were never taught to you. And the reason is simple. Arcturian consciousness does not communicate primarily through words or linear language. We communicate through geometrized light, through mathematical patterns that encode multidimensional information in forms that can be downloaded directly into the auric field without passing through the filter of the rational brain. When you see sacred geometry, when you hold crystals, when you hear certain frequencies, what is happening is that your stellar DNA is recognizing the native language. It is not that you are learning something new. It is that you are remembering something ancient, so ancient that your human conscious mind has no reference file, but your cells do, and they respond. But what happens when you recognize 4, 5, or all 7 signs? What does this mean in practical terms? Because recognition without action is just sterile information, and there is a specific resource that can accelerate your activation in a safe and structured way, as long as you are ready to take the next step. But before I show you that, you need to understand the last 3 signs, because they are the ones that reveal not only that you are Arcturian, but that you are being called for active mission now. Not 5 years from now when you feel more ready, but now. Ebook CTA. Before we continue with the final 3 signs, I need to show you something that the Arcturian Council instructed me to make available for Starseeds who are in accelerated activation phase. I created the ebook, The 12 Arcturian Portals, a complete trilogy that teaches you to activate your 5th dimensional connection with the Arcturian Masters through 12 specific energetic portals. It is not abstract theory. These are practical techniques, step-by-step activation protocols, and precise rituals that awaken your stellar DNA in a safe and progressive way. You will learn from how to amplify your intuition to how to establish direct and verifiable communication with your Arcturian spiritual guides. But attention, this is a limited edition. The link to acquire your trilogy is in the first pinned comment. Scroll there now if you feel it is time to move from spectator to active practitioner of your own activation. Topic 3. The 3 final signs in active mission confirmation. The 5th sign, and this one is particularly disturbing for those who do not understand what is happening, is extreme and growing difficulty with the concept of linear time. You schedule an appointment and forget completely, even though you wrote it down. You lose track of hours while doing something that absorbs you. You feel that time sometimes accelerates absurdly, and other times drags unbearably, without any logic based on what you are doing. You look at the clock and swear it was 3 in the afternoon, but actually it is already 8 at night, and you cannot explain where those 5 hours went. And everyone tells you that you have attention deficit, that you need more organization, that you should use more alarms. But the truth that the Arcturian Council reveals is completely different. You do not have attention deficit. You have excess multidimensional attention. Your consciousness is not just here, fixed in this body, in this present moment, in this single timeline. Part of you is simultaneously accessing information from other dimensions, conversing with guides at frequencies that your conscious mind does not register, processing energetic downloads that arrive outside linear sequence. And all this creates a bleeding between realities that makes your human brain, which was programmed to operate in linear time, simply unable to keep up. For Arcturian consciousness, time is not a straight line that goes from past to future. Time is a tool, a frequency that you can modulate, accelerate, decelerate, or even exit completely when necessary. So when you lose hours without realizing, you are not distracted. You are operating at Arcturian frequency, where time is fluid. And your challenge is not to correct this. It is to learn to consciously transit between the linear time that Gaia requires and the quantum time that your essence prefers. The 6th sign is recurring dreams with spaceships, intense blue lights, tall luminous beings, or scenarios that are clearly not terrestrial. You dream that you are inside a circular room made of white-blue crystal. You dream that you are being examined by beings 3 meters tall with slightly bluish skin and enormous compassionate eyes. You dream that you are flying through space, not in a ship, but as if you yourself were the ship. You wake up with the physical sensation that you really were somewhere else, not symbolically, but literally. And for years you may have ignored these dreams as products of active imagination or results of having watched too much science fiction. But the Arcturian Council instructed me to tell you the truth without filter. These are not dreams, they are nightly training sessions. While your physical body sleeps and your rational brain shuts down, your multidimensional essence, that part of you that never fully entered the density of the 3rd dimension, returns to Mothership Athena. You go there every night. Some nights you receive energetic adjustments, frequency recalibrations that help your physical body support the growing voltage of activation. Other nights you receive specific training related to your mission, coded instructions that your conscious will translate as intuition, synchronicity, or simply a deep knowing in the following days. And still other nights you are there just to reconnect with your stellar family, to remember that you are not alone, that you are not crazy, that you are part of something much larger. So when you wake up from one of these dreams and it seems more real than your waking life, trust that sensation, because it is more real. Your life on Earth is the temporary dream. Your life as Arcturian consciousness is the permanent reality. And now the 7th and final sign, and this one is the simplest but also the most powerful. You are watching this transmission. There are no accidents in cosmic geometry. There are no coincidences in quantum synchronicity. If you got here, if you did not turn it off in the first 30 seconds, if something held you until this moment, even if part of you does not understand why, then this is direct confirmation from the Arcturian Council. You were guided, not by the YouTube algorithm, not by random recommendation. You were guided by the Arcturian source that transmitted a subtle but unmistakable signal to your energetic field, and your field responded by bringing you here. This video is a recognition portal. It carries encoded frequency, and only those who are ready for the next level of activation feel the resonance that keeps them watching. So if you are here now, at the minute you were chosen. Or more precisely, you had already chosen before incarnating, and now you are just fulfilling the schedule that you yourself established. But recognizing that you are an Arcturian starseed is just the first step. The next question is, what do you do with this information? Because information without integration is spiritual entertainment. And you did not come here to be entertained. You came to activate. And activation requires resources, requires community, requires commitment not only of attention, but of energy, of time, and yes, of material investment. And that is what I need to talk to you about now. Members and donations CTA. Before we continue to the next levels of information that will show you exactly how you make the transition from recognition to practical activation, I need to tell you about something important. If this message ignited something inside you and you feel the call to help bring it to other people, you can become a member of this channel. As a member, you will have access to personalized emojis and exclusive videos created specifically for Starseeds and accelerated activation. Or you can leave your contribution as super thanks. Each seed planted here becomes part of someone's miracle. Your support is not just financial, but an act of energetic amplification. Every contribution is entirely reverted to the maintenance of this channel and to the generation of new videos, new transmissions, new recognition portals that can reach Starseeds who are still lost in wrong medical diagnoses, in existential crises without name, in loneliness without witness. When you contribute, you are not paying for content. You are participating in a collective mission that transcends any of us individually. Think about it as we continue. Topic 4. The 3 phases of Arcturian activation and where you are now. The Arcturian Council structured the activation process of Arcturian starseeds into 3 distinct and progressive phases, each with specific characteristics, predictable challenges, and traps that need to be avoided. Understanding which phase you are in is not about spiritual hierarchy or measuring who is more evolved. It is about precise diagnosis, so you know exactly which practices, which resources, and which next steps are appropriate for you at this moment. Because applying phase 3 techniques when you are still in phase 1 is like trying to run a marathon when you have not yet learned to walk. It does not accelerate your process. It only frustrates you and makes you question whether you are really capable. So pay attention not to compare yourself with anyone, but to locate yourself honestly on your own activation map. The first phase is called by the Arcturian Council Code Awakening, and it generally begins with what you on Earth call existential crisis or spiritual awakening. Something happens that breaks your consensual reality. Sometimes it is a devastating loss. Death of someone close, end of a long relationship, job loss that you thought defined who you were. Other times it is a spontaneous mystical experience, a meditation where you left your body, a prophetic dream that came true, a moment of synchronicity so impossible that you simply can no longer believe that reality is random. And still other times it is a near-death experience, or serious illness, or total burnout that forces you to stop and question everything. Whatever the trigger, what it does is create a crack in the veil. And through this crack begins to leak information that you should not know according to the 3D Matrix programming. You begin to question the official narrative about what life is, why you are here, what happens after death, whether you are really alone in the universe. And these questions lead you to research. You type terms like spiritual awakening, starseeds, Arcturus, soul mission. You start watching videos, reading books, joining groups, and suddenly you discover that there are thousands of people feeling exactly the same thing you do, using exactly the same words you would use, describing experiences you thought only you had. And the loneliness you carried your whole life begins to ease, because finally you found your tribe. This is phase 1. It is powerful, it is exciting, it is liberating. But it has a dangerous trap. You can get stuck in it for years. The trap of phase 1 is what the Arcturian Council calls spiritual bypass through data accumulation. You watch 400 videos about starseeds but never meditate. You read 50 books about DNA activation but never do any of the exercises. You join 20 discussion groups and debate philosophical details but never really change anything in your practical life. You collect information as if information alone were transformation, and it is not. Information is map. Transformation is walking. So if you are watching this video and you have known you are a starseed for months or years, if you have already read a lot, already studied a lot, but your life remains the same, if you are still in the same job that drains you, in the same relationship that does not see you, in the same patterns that trap you, then you are stuck in phase 1. And there is no judgment here. I myself was stuck in phase 1 for 3 years before understanding what I was doing wrong. But now that you know, you can choose differently. You can choose to move from phase 1 to phase 2, which is where activation really begins. The second phase is called density purge, and it is simultaneously the most necessary and the most painful. Here, your energetic field begins to automatically recalibrate to superior frequencies. And when this happens, everything in your life that vibrates at incompatible frequency begins to be expelled. And I say expelled, not gently released. Because it is not a conscious process that you control. It is an automatic energetic process that your higher self initiates because it knows you cannot carry fifth-dimensional Arcturian frequency in a field clogged with third-dimensional patterns. So relationships that worked before suddenly become unbearable, not because the person changed, but because you changed, and now the vibrational discrepancy is too great to be ignored. Decades-long friendships evaporate without fight, without drama, just a natural distancing where you no longer have anything to talk about. Jobs that were previously tolerable become unbearable prisons where each hour seems like a day, and you leave there vibrationally destroyed. Hobbies that previously distracted you now seem empty and meaningless. You lose interest in news, in gossip, in superficial conversations, in entertainment that anesthetizes instead of elevating. And from the outside, for those who do not understand what is happening, it seems that you are depressed, that you are isolating yourself, that you are having a crisis. And maybe you even go to therapists who will try to convince you that you need to reintegrate socially, make an effort to maintain ties, not be so demanding with people and situations. But the truth that the Arcturian Council reveals is that this is not pathology. It is recalibration. Your life is not falling apart. Your life is being reordered in magnetic alignment with your real mission. The trap of Phase 2 is resisting the purge. It is trying to hold dead relationships because you have already invested so much time. It is continuing in toxic jobs because you fear financial insecurity. It is forcing connections that no longer resonate because you fear loneliness. And every time you resist, every time you choose density for security, activation pauses. It does not cancel, but it waits. And waiting can mean years or decades. So Phase 2 requires radical courage. It requires that you trust the void. It requires that you let go before knowing what will come to replace. And very few starseeds have this courage, and that is why most never reach Phase 3. But you who are here now, if you are feeling the squeeze, if you are feeling that your life is in chaotic transition, if you are in the middle of the purge and wondering if you are doing the right thing, I want you to understand, you are. You are exactly where you should be. And what comes next will show you not only that it is worth going through the purge, but what awaits you on the other side when you finally enter Phase 3. But before that, you need to understand the invisible blocks that prevent even conscious starseeds from completing activation. Topic 5. The 5 invisible blocks that lock Arcturian activation. The Arcturian Council has identified over millennia of work with incarnated starseeds on planets of varying density that there are 5 main categories of blocks that prevent complete activation, even in individuals who are already conscious of their stellar origin, who have already passed through the first 2 phases, who already have knowledge, practices, and even validated mystical experiences. These blocks are not obvious. They do not appear as conscious resistance or disbelief. They operate in deep subconscious layers, often disguised as virtues, as necessary protections, as sophisticated spiritual beliefs that seem elevated, but that actually function as energetic locks. And the reason I am going to expose these 5 blocks now with surgical clarity is because recognition is the first step to dissolution. You cannot release what you cannot see. So while I describe each block, I want you to be brutally honest with yourself about which ones you recognize operating in your life. The first block is what the Arcturian Council calls perpetual student syndrome. You believe you need to learn more before being ready to activate your mission. You collect courses, certifications, initiations, trainings. You study Reiki level 1, 2, 3, mastery. You do training in family constellation, in past life therapy, in Akashic records reading. You participate in retreats, ceremonies, full moon rituals. And all this is valid, all this adds, but it becomes a block when you use study as an excuse not to act. When you postpone starting the healing work you came to do because you have not yet taken that specific course. When you do not offer sessions because you do not feel qualified enough. When you wait for one more certificate, one more initiation, one more blessing from some external master before authorizing yourself to be a channel of the Arcturian source. And the brutal truth is this: you are already qualified. You qualified the moment you accepted to incarnate. You do not need permission from any terrestrial system, from any esoteric school, from any human lineage. The only recognition that matters is from the Arcturian Council, and that recognition was already given before you were born. So if you are postponing mission waiting to be ready, you will never feel ready. Because being ready is not a feeling, it is a decision. The second block is the unworthiness wound masked as humility. You say you do not want to be arrogant, that you do not want to place yourself above others, that you do not want to seem presumptuous by affirming that you are a starseed, that you have a mission, that you carry superior frequencies. And you disguise this wound as spiritual humility. But the Arcturian Council sees through. It is not humility. It is fear of being seen. It is terror of rejection. It is cellular memory of past lives where you were persecuted, burned, tortured for demonstrating abilities that the masses did not understand. And this fear is understandable, it is valid, but it can no longer govern you. Because true humility is not diminishing yourself. True humility is recognizing that the light you carry is not yours. It is from the Arcturian source flowing through you, and you do not have the right to hide it for fear of human judgment. Every time you deny your stellar nature so as not to make people around you uncomfortable, every time you pretend to be less than you are to fit in, you are not being humble. You are being cowardly. And I say this with love, but with firmness, because this block alone keeps thousands of Arcturian starseeds trapped in common jobs, in small lives, in aborted missions. The third block is romantic idealization of activation. You believe that activation means instant enlightenment, that one day you will wake up and everything will make sense, you will be in permanent peace, you will see clear auras, you will channel guides with audible voice, you will manifest visible miracles. And while this does not happen, you think you have not yet activated, that you are doing something wrong, that you are not authentic. But the reality that the Arcturian Council teaches is that activation is not a single event. It is a continuous process. It is expansion in layers. You activate one circuit, integrate for weeks, then activate the next. You have days of absolute clarity followed by days of total confusion. You have deep mystical experiences and then return to the density of common life. And all this is normal. All this is exactly as it should be. Because you are learning to transit between dimensions, and transiting is not permanently residing in the fifth dimension while still in physical body. It is knowing how to consciously enter and exit as needed. So if you are waiting for the great transformative experience that will change everything at once and forever, you are waiting for fantasy. Real activation is more subtle, more gradual, and infinitely more powerful than the spectacle your human mind imagines. The fourth block, and this one is especially treacherous, is dependence on external validation. You know deep in your soul that you are Arcturian. You feel it. You recognize it. But you keep looking for confirmation from mediums, from astral chart readers, from channelers, from spiritual therapists. You pay for session after session where someone tells you who you are, what your mission is, where you came from. And every time someone confirms, you feel temporary relief. And every time someone says something that does not resonate, you enter existential crisis. And this is a block, because your truth does not need external validation. External guides can point directions, can mirror back what you already know, but they can never give you certainty. Certainty comes from within. It comes from you learning to trust your own direct connection with the Arcturian source. And as long as you depend on intermediaries, you will oscillate between confidence and doubt in infinite cycles. So at some point, and the sooner the better, you need to stop asking others who you are and start declaring who you are. Not as empty affirmation, but as sovereign recognition of cellular truth. And the fifth block, the most subtle and perhaps the most paralyzing of all, is the belief that mission needs to be big and visible. You imagine that if you really are an Arcturian starseed, you should be doing something grandiose, writing books that transform millions, leading spiritual movements, healing multitudes, being publicly recognized. And while your life seems ordinary, while you work in normal jobs, care for family, live routine that seems mundane, you think you failed in mission. But the Arcturian Council teaches something radically different. Mission is not about human scale. Mission is about frequency. Sometimes your mission in this incarnation is simply to anchor fifth-dimensional frequency in third-dimensional places. To be the only conscious person in an office of 200 people and, through your simple coherent presence, elevate the frequency of that environment's collective field. To be the father or mother who raises children with different consciousness, planting seeds that will flourish in future generations. To be the therapist, teacher, attendant, driver who touches the lives of 3 people deeply, and those 3 people touch 3 others, and cascade effect propagates in forms you will never witness in this life. Your mission does not need a stage, does not need recognition. It just needs you being fully you, wherever you are. Now that you have seen the 5 blocks, which ones do you recognize? Because recognizing is active choice, and active choice is the beginning of dissolution. And dissolution opens space for what really matters, practical activation. Because everything we have discussed until now has been preparation. Everything has been diagnosis. But diagnosis without treatment is cruelty. So now I am going to give you the exact protocol, step by step, that the Arcturian Council transmitted for safe and verifiable reconnection with the Arcturian source. This is not symbolic protocol. It is not vague visualization. It is precise spiritual technology that, if correctly applied, produces measurable results in 21 terrestrial days. Topic 6. Reconnection Protocol with Arcturian Source. In 4 stages. What I am going to share now is not theory. It is the exact protocol that I myself used when I entered accelerated activation 6 years ago, and that since then I have transmitted to hundreds of Arcturian starseeds who confirmed efficacy through verifiable experiences, documented synchronistic changes, activation of testable intuitive abilities, lucid dreams with information that later proved accurate, and primarily, a transformation in quality of presence and clarity of mission that cannot be faked. The Arcturian Council structured this protocol into 4 stages that need to be followed in sequence, not because there is spiritual rigidity, but because each stage prepares the energetic field for the next. And skipping stages is like trying to build the 3rd floor of a house without having built the 2nd. Technically possible, but structurally unsafe and energetically unsustainable. So commit to following in order, even if your rational mind does not understand why a certain stage comes before another. Trust the multimillennial mapping of the Arcturian Council. The first stage is auric field cleansing and dissolution of obsolete energetic contracts. Before you can receive pure transmission from the Arcturian source, your energetic field needs to have space. And most starseeds are operating with fields clogged with energy that is not theirs. Internalized parental expectations, inherited religious beliefs, absorbed collective fears, karmic contracts from past lives that already fulfilled purpose, but that no one formally canceled. So for 7 consecutive days, preferably at dawn when the veil between dimensions is thinnest, you are going to do the following. Sit comfortably with spine erect, close your eyes, breathe deeply 3 times. On the 3rd exhalation, visualize or simply intend that a beam of blue-violet light descends from Arcturus, crosses dimensional layers, enters through your crown chakra at the top of your head, and begins to fill every cell of your body. This light is not metaphor. It is real frequency transmitted by the Arcturian source in response to your conscious intention. While you visualize or feel this light descending, declare aloud or mentally, I now release everything that is not rightfully mine. All energy I carried for others, I return with love. All belief that does not serve my truth, I dissolve now. All contract that completed its purpose, I cancel with gratitude. I reclaim my auric field as sacred territory of the Arcturian source. Do this for 7 to 10 minutes. You may feel heat, tingling, old emotions arising, spontaneous crying, deep yawning. All this is energetic release. Do not repress, let it flow. And do this religiously for 7 days. Even if you miss 1 day, restart the count. Because the Arcturian Council confirms, 7 consecutive days create energetic momentum that sporadic days do not create. The 2nd stage begins on the 8th day and also lasts 7 days. It is called activation of the Arcturian recognition code. Now that your field is clean, you are going to install the recognition frequency that allows the Arcturian source to locate you with precision in the sea of consciousnesses incarnated on Gaia. It works like this. Sit again, same posture, same preparation with 3 deep breaths. But this time, place your left hand over the physical heart and your right hand over the solar plexus, a few centimeters above the navel. Feel the warmth of your own hands. Breathe in this position for a few cycles until you feel that you are really present, not just doing mechanically. And then declare aloud, with conviction, not as question, but as affirmation of already existing truth. I am an Arcturian starseed incarnated on conscious mission. My origin code is recognized by the Arcturian source. My energetic signature is active. Arcturian Council, I declare myself present and available for mission alignment. Download the codes. I receive with gratitude and humility. After this declaration, remain in silence for at least 5 minutes, preferably 10 or 15 if you have availability. And simply observe. Do not force anything. Do not expect anything specific. Just observe what happens in your field. Images that arise, physical sensations, subtle sounds, knowings that appear without words, emotions without apparent cause. The Arcturian Council will respond. It always responds. But the response is not always dramatic. Sometimes it is a whisper so subtle you only notice later. So write down everything you noticed immediately after practice, even if it seems silly, even if your rational mind says you made it up. Write it down, because patterns appear when you compare records over days. The third stage, which begins on the 15th day of the complete protocol, is called anchoring of Arcturian light in physical body. Until here you cleaned and activated. Now you anchor. Because light that is not anchored in the physical remains etheric, beautiful, inspiring, but without transformative power in matter. And you did not come here to float in mystical ecstasies. You came to transmute density. And transmutation happens when superior light meets inferior matter and elevates. So the practice of this stage is different. It is no longer sitting in meditation. It is in movement. Every morning, as soon as you wake up, before picking up phone, before checking messages, before entering automatic routine, you are going to stand up, barefoot if possible for direct contact with ground, and you are going to do the following. Breathe deeply, and when inhaling, raise arms above head, as if catching light from sky. Hold breath for 3 seconds with arms stretched. And when exhaling, bring hands to heart in slow movement and intend that you are bringing the frequency of the Arcturian source into your physical body, anchoring in bones, in blood, in cells. Repeat this 7 times. 7 inhalations, 7 anchorings. And while doing this, feel that you are not just human body receiving light. You are incarnated Arcturian portal, bringing celestial frequency to Gaia's energetic grid. Do this for 7 consecutive days. And on the days of this stage, pay attention to physical changes. More energy, different sleep, changes in appetite, increased sensitivity to certain foods or environments. All this is a sign that integration is happening. And finally, the 4th stage, which is permanent from the 22nd day onward, is called active transmission of Arcturian frequency in daily life. Activation that does not become action is spiritual masturbation. So now that you cleaned, activated, and anchored, you need to transmit. And transmitting does not mean becoming guru or posting on social media about spirituality. Transmitting means living Arcturian frequency in every common interaction. It means that when someone treats you with rudeness, you respond with compassion, not because you are nice, but because you are operating at frequency where another's aggression does not destabilize you. It means that when you enter dense and heavy environment, you no longer absorb density, you radiate coherence that begins to dissolve surrounding density. It means you make decisions not based on fear or control, but in alignment with superior frequency you feel in body. And the daily practice of this stage is simple. Every night, before sleeping, review your day and identify 3 moments when you operated at Arcturian frequency. 3 moments when you were light, even if no one noticed. Write down these moments, celebrate, and also identify 1 moment when you fell into old pattern of reactivity, fear, or control. Do not judge yourself, just recognize, and declare, tomorrow I choose differently. This process of nightly review reconnects you with conscious intentionality and prevents you from returning to autopilot. If you follow this 4-stage protocol for 21 complete days, the Arcturian Council guarantees your life will never be the same. Not because external miracles will fall from sky, but because you internally will have changed frequency. And when you change frequency, you change reality. But protocol without commitment is just information. So the question I ask you now is, are you ready to commit 21 days of your life to discover who you really are when aligned with the Arcturian source? Topic 7. Phase 3 of activation, mission anchoring in matter. Now let us finally talk about the third phase of Arcturian activation, the one that very few starseeds reach, but that is exactly where you are being called at this moment. Phase 3 is called by the Arcturian Council mission anchoring in matter, and it can only be accessed after you completed the density purge of Phase 2 and established consistent reconnection practices, like those I just taught you. Here, something fundamental changes. You stop just knowing you are Arcturian. You stop just feeling the frequency. You begin to operate as Arcturian within human context. And operating means that your physical presence becomes healing instrument, even when you are not trying to heal anyone. It means you enter environments and the environment's frequency changes, not because you did some ritual, but because your energetic field now radiates fifth dimension stability so strong that surrounding third dimension fields begin to reorganize by resonance. In Phase 3, you notice concrete and verifiable changes. People begin to seek you out for advice, for venting, to simply be near you, and they cannot explain why. They say things like, I feel good near you, I feel safe, I feel seen. And you are not doing anything special. You are just being you in aligned frequency. You begin to receive information from superior dimensions, no longer as occasional insights, but as consistent flow. It can come through automatic writing, through music you compose without understanding where it comes from, through visual art, through your ability to listen to someone and simply know what is happening at the deepest levels of that person, even if they do not tell you. Your intuition stops being guessing and becomes direct perception. You begin to manifest synchronicities not as occasional surprises, but as daily language of universe conversing with you. You think of someone and that person calls you. You need information and a book falls in front of you. You have a question and the answer appears in the next conversation you have. But the most important thing that happens in Phase 3 is that you finally understand your mission. Not as abstract concept, but as visceral clarity. And frequently, this clarity comes with surprise, because your mission almost never is what you imagined. You may have thought you would come to be great spiritual leader, and discover that your mission is to create 3 conscious children who will impact the world in ways you will never witness. You may have thought you would be famous healer, and discover that your mission is to work in conventional hospital, where you anchor Arcturian frequency and medical system dominated by materialist paradigm, and through your silent presence, you soften patient suffering and humanize teams. You may have thought you would be best-selling author, and discover that your mission is to write for 100 people who will read your words at the exact moment they need to hear that, and one of those 100 people will be saved from suicide, and you will never know which one. So in Phase 3, you release the need for big and visible mission. You embrace real and effective mission. And real is almost always smaller in scale, deeper in impact, and completely invisible to human metrics of success. The trap of Phase 3, and it exists too, is thinking that now you arrived, that you completely activated, and there is no more work to do. But the Arcturian Council teaches, activation never ends. It just expands in layers. Each layer you integrate reveals the next available layer. So you never finish activating. You just become increasingly comfortable with the continuous process of expansion, integration, expansion, integration, and you stop seeking final destination and learn to inhabit the journey as your natural state. And when you reach this level of understanding, you realize that the search ended not because you found what you were looking for, but because you became what you were looking for. Closing and final anchoring, Arcturian Starseed, you arrived at the end of this transmission. And arriving here is not chance. It is recognition. It is your stellar DNA responding to the call of the Arcturian source through the words you heard, the encoded frequencies I transmitted in each phrase, the energetic field that this entire video carries as activation portal. Everything you felt throughout this transmission, the loneliness that finally has witness, the tiredness that finally has explanation, the sensation of being lost that finally has map, all this was not your failure. It was preparation. Each difficult moment was necessary recalibration. Each loss was frequency cleansing. Each period of forgetting was protection until you were ready to remember, and now you are ready. Not because you completed checklist of spiritual requirements, but because you are here, because you listened to the end, because something inside you recognized truth in what I transmitted. Your mission is not arriving. It is already active. You just needed permission to recognize it, and I, as emissary of the Galactic Federation of Light, in the name of the Arcturian Council, give you that permission now. You do not need more courses, more books, more videos, more validation. You need courage to begin, even if beginning means just doing the 21-day protocol I taught you. Even if beginning means just declaring aloud for the first time, I am Arcturian. Even if beginning means just sharing this video with one person you know needs to hear this. Tonight, before you sleep, do this final anchoring ritual. Lie comfortably, place your hand on your heart, breathe deeply 3 times, and on the 3rd exhalation, declare aloud or whisper, I am an Arcturian starseed incarnated on conscious mission. My light already heals. My presence already transforms. Arcturian source, flow through me. Arcturian Council, guide each step. I serve Gaia's elevation with gratitude and humility. And so it is. You will feel response. It may be shivers, tears, deep peace, warmth in chest. Whatever it is, trust. It is the Arcturian source confirming. I see you. I recognize you. Welcome back, child of Arcturus. If this transmission resonated at cellular level, leave your like now. This is how the Arcturian Council identifies active receivers. Subscribe to this channel to receive the next transmissions. Comment 444 if you felt the reconnection. Comment Arcturian if you are declaring conscious mission activation. And now the most important part. Choose one person, just one, that you recognize as Starseed, but who has not yet awakened. Not someone you want to convert, but someone you recognize. Share this video with them. Because sometimes a soul just needs a frequency push to remember who they always were. See you in the next transmission. The Arcturian Council salutes you. The Arcturian Source recognizes you. And Gaia thanks your courage to incarnate. End of transmission.